The fluorescent hum of the office lights usually set my teeth on edge, a stark contrast to the thud of gloves on a punching bag or the sharp crack of leather on leather. My name is Maya, and most days, I was just another cog in the corporate machine, pushing papers and chasing deadlines. My colleagues saw a quiet, focused woman, head down, always working. They didn't see the gnawing hunger that had driven me since childhood, the orphaned girl who clawed her way up from nothing. They certainly didn't see the fighter beneath the sensible blouse. Boxing wasn't just a hobby, it was my sanctuary, my release. It was the only place where the constant clamor in my head quieted, where every punch landed was a tiny victory against the world that had always felt like it was trying to keep me down. I wasn't just good in the amateur circuit. I had a reputation for being relentless, a whirlwind of calculated aggression. And I needed that aggression, now more than ever. The citywide competition, the prize money, a substantial sum, was a beacon in the murky waters of my financial reality. Enough to finally make a dent in the mountain of bills, enough to breathe for a moment. It was a lifeline I desperately needed to grab. After another soul-crushing day, I practically sprinted to the gym. The scent of sweat and liniment was a perfume to me, far more appealing than any expensive fragrance. Amelia was already there, a vibrant splash of color against the muted gym walls. She was my coach, a paradox of youth and wisdom. Amelia, with her striking dark hair that often fell across her eyes as she demonstrated a move, and a smile that held both encouragement and a hint of mischief, was only my age, 24, but her energy was boundless. She moved with a dancer's grace, every muscle toned and purposeful, a stark contrast to my own more rugged, battle-hardened physique. Her eyes, a deep hazel, always seemed to hold a quiet intensity, a reflection of her unwavering dedication. We'd been training together for over a year now. She understood my stubbornness, my silent battles, in a way few others ever had. There was an unspoken trust forged in the heat of countless sparring sessions, a bond built on shared effort and mutual respect. So, I began, hands already wrapping, the familiar ritual calming my nerves. The city competition. I'm in. Amelia's head snapped up, her eyes immediately alight. A broad smile spread across her face, radiating pure enthusiasm. I knew it, she declared, her voice ringing with certainty. She walked over, a towel draped over her shoulder, a small bead of sweat tracing a path down her temple. It's a big one, Maya. The biggest yet. But you can take it. She leaned against the punching bag I was about to assault, her presence warm and grounding. This isn't just about winning, though the prize money is significant, I know, she said, her voice dropping slightly, showing she understood my unspoken motivations. This is about proving what you're capable of. You're ready for this. She pushed off the bag, her expression turning serious, professional. We need to step it up. A special regimen. More intensity, more focus. We'll fine-tune everything. Her gaze was unwavering, piercing through my usual defenses. It'll be brutal, Maya. No excuses. A knot formed in my stomach. Brutal. I knew what that meant coming from Amelia. More hours, less sleep, muscles screaming in protest. It would undoubtedly bleed into my already stretched-thin work life, demanding sacrifices I wasn't sure I could afford. My corporate job, the one that paid the bills, barely tolerated my evening escapades as it was. But then I thought of the prize money, the chance to finally get ahead, to escape the constant tightrope walk of my existence. I thought of the feeling of my fist connecting, the roar of the crowd, the undeniable power. And I thought of Amelia's unwavering belief in me. Okay, I said, the word a little rougher than I intended. I tightened my wraps, feeling the familiar sting of the coarse fabric against my knuckles. I looked at her, truly looked at her, her face alight with an almost childlike excitement, her jaw set with a fierce determination. Let's do this. Amelia's smile returned, broader this time, a flash of white against her sun-kissed skin. Good. We start tomorrow. No mercy. A thrill, an unexpected jolt, shot through me. It wasn't just the promise of victory, It was the intensity of her focus, the way her eyes seemed to hold all the possibilities. An unsettling warmth spread through my chest, an emotion I usually kept locked away. This competition, with Amelia by my side, was going to be more than just a fight. It was going to be everything. The no mercy Amelia had promised was no exaggeration. Each day bled into the next in a grueling cycle of work and training. My morning started before dawn, pushing through sets of burpees and shadow boxing until my muscles burned. Then, the sterile hum of the office, where I'd sip lukewarm coffee, trying to appear alert while my body screamed for rest. Evenings were worse. Relentless assault on my already exhausted frame. Amelia's special regimen was a demon, a beautiful, relentless demon. She drilled me on footwork until my calves felt like molten lead. We sparred with an intensity that left me breathless, my lungs aching, my vision speckled with stars. She meticulously picked apart my form, correcting every minute flaw, her voice a steady stream of instruction, sometimes gentle, sometimes sharp. Rotate your hip, Maya. Keep your guard up. Faster, stronger. Her hands, surprisingly strong yet graceful, would often guide mine, adjusting my wrist, demonstrating a pivot. There was a particular warmth in her guidance, a fleeting sensation that would spark a tiny, unwelcome thought deep within me. I tried to dismiss it, to focus on the technique, but sometimes, when her fingers brushed against my bare arm as she strapped on a pad, I'd pause, quickly refocusing on the task at hand. My body became a canvas of aches and pains. My shoulders throbbed, my knuckles were perpetually swollen, and a dull ache settled deep in my core. Simple tasks at work became monumental efforts. Typing felt like lifting weights, and standing for long periods was a subtle torture. My focus at the office, usually laser-sharp, began to fray at the edges. I missed minor details. My responses were slower, and the ever-present bags under my eyes deepened into permanent shadows. My boss, a man who saw productivity as a religion, started giving me pointed looks. One Tuesday morning, I almost dozed off during a crucial team meeting. A hot flush spread across my face as I jolted awake, scrambling to catch up. The fear of jeopardizing my income, my stability, gnawed at me. This prize money, this competition, was supposed to alleviate pressure, not amplify it. I started to resent the relentless pace. Amelia, however, seemed oblivious to my silent struggles. Her dedication was absolute, almost terrifying in its intensity. She pushed herself just as hard, demonstrating every exercise, her own body a testament to strength and discipline. Her passion for my success was undeniable, palpable in every shouted instruction, every encouraging nod. She truly believed in me, and that belief was a powerful, dangerous drug. There were moments, brief and disorienting, when the line between coach and something else began to blur. During a cool-down, as I lay on the mat, sweat plastering my hair to my forehead, Amelia knelt beside me, gently stretching my quads. Her proximity, the light scent of her, the softness in her eyes as she murmured words of encouragement, would catch me off guard. Her fingers, strong and calloused from her own training, worked expertly, easing the tension. I'd close my eyes, trying to compartmentalize, to ignore the unexpected warmth that spread through me, focusing instead on the relief in my muscles. It was a distraction, an inconvenient truth I tried to push down, deep into the recesses of my mind. I told myself it was just the intensity of the training, the shared experience, the sheer exhaustion. But every time Amelia laughed, a bright, clear sound that filled the gym, or when she ran a hand through her dark, slightly damp hair, revealing the graceful curve of her neck, I felt a familiar tightening in my chest. It was an unwelcome intrusion into my carefully constructed, solitary world. My focus needed to be on the ring, on the prize. Not on the way Amelia's smile crinkled the corners of her eyes, or the way she moved with precision as she demonstrated a particularly explosive move. This growing awareness of her, this burgeoning connection, was a dangerous complication. It was a spark I didn't want to acknowledge, burning subtly beneath the surface of my exhaustion and frustration. It threatened to consume not just my focus, but the very foundation of my carefully guarded self. The breaking point arrived, as these things often do, with an almost mundane inevitability. It was a Thursday, the kind of day that felt like it had been stretched thin, brittle, and ready to snap. I'd spent the morning wrestling with a particularly obtuse spreadsheet at work, my brain feeling like a block of lead, my fingers heavy and sluggish on the keyboard. A looming deadline for a major client report hung over my head, threatening to crush me. That evening, the gym was a haze of pain and frustration. Amelia, her usual vibrant self, seemed to double down on her intensity. "Maya, harder. You're holding back," she commanded, her voice cutting through the thud of my gloves. We were working on combination drills, and my movements felt clumsy, uncoordinated. My muscles screamed, each punch a monumental effort. My shoulders, already a mass of knots, tightened further with every swing. "My guard is dropping, Amelia," I gasped, sweat stinging my eyes. "I can't." "You can," she retorted, her tone firm, uncompromising. "Dig deeper, Maya. This is what champions are made of." She held the pads, her eyes challenging, relentless. I saw the unyielding belief in them, and for the first time, it didn't inspire me. It felt like a heavy burden. We continued for another punishing 20 minutes. My vision began to blur around the edges. A sharp, searing pain shot through my left shoulder with every jab. My breath came in ragged gasps. When she finally called a halt, I practically collapsed against the ropes, my body shaking with exhaustion. The next morning, the client report, due by 9 a.m., sat unfinished on my desktop. I'd fallen asleep at my desk, my head lolling against the cold screen, waking up with a jolt only moments before I needed to submit. The quality was abysmal, riddled with errors, lacking the usual precision I prided myself on. The cold, hard reality hit me. I'd messed up. Big time. My job, my only reliable source of income, was now on the line. My boss's call came an hour later, his voice clipped and laced with icy disappointment. He didn't shout. His quiet fury was far more chilling. He informed me, in no uncertain terms, that this was unacceptable. He didn't need to say more. The message was clear. That evening, I walked into the gym, a simmering rage building inside me. My body still ached. My mind was a maelstrom of fear and self-recrimination. Amelia, sensing my mood, approached me cautiously. "You look drained, Maya. Hard day." "Hard day," I echoed, the words spilling out, bitter and sharp. "My job is hanging by a thread, Amelia. Because of this." I gestured wildly around the gym, at the punching bags, the mats, at her. "Your special regimen, your no-mercy training, it's pushed me too far. I'm not a professional athlete with endless hours to dedicate. I have a life, a job, bills to pay. And you, with your perfect life, you don't understand that." My voice rose, raw with accusation and the crushing weight of my anxiety. Her eyes, usually so confident, widened slightly, a flicker of hurt crossing her face. She took a step back, as if physically recoiling from my words. "I just wanted you to win, Maya," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with a vulnerability I'd never heard before. "I believe in you so much." "I thought." "You thought what?" I cut her off, my anger overriding any sense of propriety. That I could just magically make it all work? That I could sacrifice everything for a few rounds in a ring? I can't afford to be a champion if it means losing everything else. The silence that followed was deafening, thick with the weight of my harsh words. Amelia's face, usually so animated, was now pale, her lips trembling slightly. She stared at me for a long moment, her hazel eyes glistening. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. I watched her go, a sudden, cold dread washing over me. She didn't go to the mats or to the office. She walked purposefully towards the small, rarely used bathroom at the back of the gym, and the door clicked shut behind her. The sound echoed in the sudden emptiness of the space. A few minutes later, a soft, muffled sound reached my ears. A sob. Then another. It was faint, almost imperceptible over the distant city hum, but unmistakable. Amelia.
Crying.
My anger, so fiery moments before, evaporated, replaced by a suffocating wave of guilt. I had never seen Amelia cry, never imagined her capable of such raw vulnerability. She was always the strong one, the unwavering coach, the pillar of support. To hear her, my beautiful, vibrant coach, reduced to such distress by my words, twisted something deep inside me. The sight of her retreating figure, the sound of her muffled sobs, pierced through my carefully constructed defenses, shattering my fury into a million pieces. The pain in my shoulders, the fear for my job, all of it paled in comparison to the sudden, agonizing realization of what I had done. I had hurt her, deeply and unfairly, and a cold, sharp blade of self-loathing twisted in my gut. The sound of Amelia's muffled sobs in the quiet gym echoed in the cavern of my own guilt. My chest tightened, a familiar feeling of loneliness mixed with a fresh wave of regret. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, the silence punctuated only by the distant hum of city traffic and the occasional sniffle from behind the closed bathroom door. My anger had burned itself out, leaving behind a cold, desolate landscape. Slowly, carefully, I walked towards the bathroom. I hesitated at the door, my hand hovering over the cool metal. What was I going to say? How could I possibly undo the sting of my words? My mouth felt dry, my heart hammering against my ribs. I knocked softly. Amelia? My voice was barely a whisper, a stark contrast to my earlier outburst. Amelia, it's Maya. Can I come in? There was a sniffle, then a pause. I need a moment. Her voice came back, thin and wobbly, laced with a pain that twisted my gut further. I leaned against the door, the cool surface a small comfort against my burning cheek. I'm sorry, I said, the words feeling utterly inadequate, yet the only ones I could offer. I was out of line. I shouldn't have said those things. It wasn't fair. Another long silence stretched between us. I closed my eyes, picturing her in there, her usually vibrant face stained with tears. The thought was unbearable. Amelia, who radiated such strength and confidence, reduced to this by my selfish anger. Finally, the click of the lock and the door opened a crack. Amelia's face was indeed blotchy and red, her eyes swollen, a streak of mascara smudged beneath one. She looked utterly vulnerable, stripped bare of her usual vivacity. My heart clenched. Can I come in? I asked again, my voice softer this time. She nodded, slowly opening the door wider. The small bathroom felt even more claustrophobic with both of us in it. The air was thick with unspoken words and lingering sadness. I saw her reflection in the mirror, her shoulders still shaking almost imperceptibly. I really am sorry, Amelia, I repeated, my gaze meeting hers in the mirror. I was stressed, I was scared about my job, but that's no excuse. You've only ever tried to help me, to push me to be better. She turned from the mirror, her eyes finally meeting mine directly. They were still watery, but the raw hurt was slowly giving way to a different emotion, a quiet, almost resigned sadness. I know you're struggling, Maya, she said, her voice still a little shaky. I do. I truly believe in you. I see what you're capable of. And I got carried away. I pushed too hard. I wanted this for you so much. Maybe I forgot to see what you needed. Her admission, so honest and vulnerable, disarmed me completely. I know, I murmured, taking a tentative step closer. And I appreciate it more than you know. It's a lot. My life outside this gym, it's not as simple as just training. I'm fighting for more than just a win in the ring, you know? I gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. I'm fighting for survival most days. Amelia's eyes softened further, a deep empathy blooming in their hazel depths. She took a deep, shuddering breath. I understand, Maya. I really do. I've been there, too, in my own way. Wanting something so badly, pushing so hard, you lose sight of everything else. She paused, then added quietly, I didn't want you to give up on yourself. Not when you're so close. The sincerity in her voice, the genuine concern, melted the last vestiges of my defensiveness. This wasn't just a coach. This was someone who truly cared, who saw past the tough exterior I presented to the world. I won't give up, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I reached out, hesitantly, and placed my hand gently on her arm. Her skin was warm beneath my touch. But we have to find a balance. I can't lose my job over this. Amelia nodded, her gaze fixed on our joined hands. A faint blush crept up her neck. We will, she promised, her voice regaining a bit of its usual strength. We'll adjust the schedule. We'll find a way that works for both. I promise. The tension in the small room slowly began to dissipate, replaced by a fragile truce. My touch lingered on her arm for a moment longer than strictly necessary. A strange warmth spread through my chest, an unfamiliar feeling of connection and relief. It wasn't just the apology or the truce, it was the shared vulnerability, the glimpse into her own struggles and her profound care that had shifted something within me. Looking at her, her eyes still a little puffy but now holding a newfound understanding, I felt a pull, a strange, undeniable warmth. The professional distance that had always existed between us had irrevocably narrowed. The spark I had tried to ignore earlier now simmered more overtly, undeniable in the quiet aftermath of our conflict. It was unsettling, exhilarating, and completely unexpected. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to extinguish it. The gym felt different after that night in the bathroom. The air between us, once charged with professional intensity and later with acrid conflict, had settled into something new. It was a quieter space, more intimate, laced with an unspoken understanding. We resumed training, but the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. The adjustments to the schedule helped, taking some pressure off my work life, but the real change was in Amelia. She was still demanding, still pushed me hard, but her approach softened. There was more patience in her corrections, more genuine concern in her eyes when she checked my form. The professional boundaries we'd maintained for over a year began to blur at the edges, dissolving slowly but surely under the heat of our shared moment of vulnerability. Her guidance, once purely functional, now seemed to carry extra care. When she adjusted my stance, her hand on my hip would rest there a fraction of a second longer than necessary. When she helped me stretch after a session, her fingers tracing the knots in my shoulders felt less like a coach's duty and more like a gesture of support. I found myself hyper-aware of her proximity, the faint scent of citrus and sweat that clung to her, the way her hair fell across her face when she concentrated. One evening, while working on pad drills, I overextended on a right hook, stumbling slightly. Amelia caught my arm to steady me, her grip firm. "Easy there, tiger," she murmured, a low, playful tone in her voice that sent an unexpected shiver through me. Our faces were close enough for me to see the flecks of gold in her hazel eyes, close enough to feel the warmth of her breath against my skin. The moment stretched, suspended in time. Her gaze dropped, just for a heartbeat, then she pulled back, a faint flush coloring her cheeks. My internal conflict raged. Part of me, the pragmatic, self-preservationist part, screamed warnings. "She's your coach. This is complicated. Don't risk it." But another part, a part one hadn't realized existed until recently, was captivated. I found myself watching her more closely, noticing the subtle curve of her smile when she thought I wasn't looking, the easy way she moved, a blend of power and grace. The connection I'd tried so hard to suppress was now a constant, simmering presence, fueled by these small, ambiguous interactions. Late one Friday night, we were the last ones in the gym. The city outside was a distant roar, the gym itself wrapped in a quiet cocoon. We were both exhausted, sitting side by side on the edge of the ring, nursing bottles of water. The silence between us was comfortable, companionable. "You've improved so much, Maya," she said softly, breaking the quiet. "Your footwork, it's like night and day." "Only because you're a good teacher," I replied, my voice a little rough. even if you are a bit of a drill sergeant." She laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound that resonated deep within me.
"Takes one to know one, I guess."
She turned to face me, her knee brushing against mine. The contact sent a tiny jolt through my system. "I meant what I said, though. You're really something special in that ring." Her gaze held mine, intense and searching. There was something more than just professional pride in her expression. It felt personal, intimate. I felt an almost irresistible urge to lean closer, to close the small distance between us. I fought it, my hands clenching around my water bottle. As we packed up to leave, I reached for my gym bag at the same time as she reached for hers. Our hands brushed, fingertips colliding. It was nothing, a simple accident, but it felt electric. I pulled my hand back quickly, as if burned. "Sorry," I muttered, avoiding her eyes. "It's fine," she replied, her voice slightly breathless. We stood there for a moment, caught in the charged stillness. The air crackled with unspoken tension, thick with possibilities I wasn't sure I was ready to explore, yet desperately wanted to. This silent dance, this careful back and forth of subtle understanding and hesitant withdrawals, was becoming more intricate, more meaningful, with every passing day. The line between coach and confidant, between friendship and something far deeper, was becoming increasingly, intoxicatingly blurred. The subtle gestures, the lingering glances, the charged silences, they intensified with each passing day. Amelia's way of connecting wasn't a grand gesture. It was a slow, deliberate easing of my defenses, a quiet encouragement that chipped away at my resolve. She knew exactly how to reach me, not with overt advances, but with a nuanced closeness that resonated deeply. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling session that left me breathless and glistening with sweat, Amelia helped me untangle my hand wraps. Her fingers, strong and agile, worked gently, unraveling the fabric that bound my knuckles. Her head was bowed slightly, her dark hair falling forward, obscuring her face, but I could feel the warmth of her focus on my hands. "Your hands are like steel, Maya," she murmured, her voice low, almost husky. "But they need care." She paused, her thumbs gently brushing the back of my hand for a moment too long. "Everything needs care, really." Her eyes met mine then, a knowing glint in their hazel depths, a hint of playful challenge that sent a jolt straight through me. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't just my coach praising my strength, it was something far more personal. She was inviting me into a different kind of conversation, a wordless one that spoke volumes. I found myself responding, almost instinctively. My initial resistance, the logical part of my brain screaming danger, was slowly being overridden by a powerful, undeniable connection. When she complimented my footwork, I'd offer a rare, soft smile, letting my gaze linger on her face. When she leaned in to correct my posture, I'd subtly shift, allowing our arms to brush, feeling the brief spark of contact. The internal war was still present, but the battle lines were shifting. I valued this. I valued her. My thoughts, once solely focused on the competition on my job, now constantly drifted to Amelia. I'd replay our interactions, dissecting every word, every glance, every gesture. The way she moved with purpose, the casual elegance of her actions, the sound of her laughter, all of it had become a comforting presence. I found myself consciously trying to draw her gaze, to elicit her attention, a behavior utterly alien to my usual guarded self. The growing closeness that had begun with our shared vulnerability was now accelerating, driven by Amelia's steady support and my own burgeoning trust. One evening after the gym had emptied out, leaving just the two of us, Amelia was showing me a new conditioning exercise. She demonstrated, her body fluid and powerful, her gaze never leaving mine as she explained the technique. Her voice was a low murmur, her eyes captivating. "It requires a lot of core strength," she said, rising gracefully. "But it's about control, too. Like everything, really." She walked towards me, her steps deliberate, her gaze unwavering. The air in the gym seemed to thicken, crackle. My breath caught in my throat. My body hummed with an unfamiliar energy, a potent mix of anticipation and nerves. She stopped directly in front of me, so close I could feel the heat radiating from her. Her hand came up, gently, to brush a stray hair from my face, her touch light. "You have so much control, Maya," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet resonating deep within my chest. Her eyes, dark and luminous, searched mine. "But sometimes it's good to let go." Her eyes held mine, a silent acknowledgement, potent and undeniable. My heart pounded like a drum against my ribs. Logic dissolved, replaced by a deep, abiding trust. I nodded, a small, deliberate movement, and she smiled, a soft, understanding curve of her lips. In that moment, the world outside, the competition, my job, all faded away. There was only Amelia, her presence, and the intoxicating, exhilarating realization that I had never trusted anyone or valued anyone quite like this. The days leading up to the citywide competition were a whirlwind, yet strangely, a calm settled over me. The understanding, that deep, unspoken connection in the empty gym, had changed everything. It was a silent vow, a powerful acknowledgement of something that had been simmering beneath the surface for far too long. Amelia, and I didn't speak about it explicitly, not in the gym at least. But the way she looked at me, the way her hand would brush mine a moment longer, the subtle deepening of her smile, it all confirmed that the boundary had not just blurred, but dissolved entirely into a profound trust. My training, surprisingly, became even more focused. The internal conflict that had plagued me was gone, replaced by a quiet determination. I was fighting for the prize money, yes, but also for something more intangible. I was fighting for myself, for this new, evolving version of Maya who was finally allowing herself to open up, to trust. And I was fighting to make Amelia proud. The day of the competition dawned crisp and clear. The arena was a cavernous space, filled with a buzzing crowd, the scent of popcorn mingling with the familiar metallic tang of anticipation. My stomach churned with nerves, a familiar companion before a fight, but this time, it was different. Amelia was there, a steady, grounding presence at my side. She moved through the pre-fight chaos with an easy grace, her hand resting reassuringly on my back as we navigated the throngs of people. "You've got this, Maya," she murmured, her voice calm, her eyes reflecting a fierce confidence. She squeezed my shoulder, a simple gesture that sent a jolt of strength through me. Her belief in me was a palpable force, a quiet strength that settled my racing heart. The roar of the crowd was deafening as my name was called. I stepped into the ring, the bright lights blinding me for a moment. My opponent was formidable, a reputation for aggressive hooks and unyielding endurance. But as the referee gave his instructions, my gaze found Amelia in my corner, her eyes locked on mine, a small, encouraging smile playing on her lips. In that moment, the noise faded, the light sharpened, and it was just her and me. The first round was a dance of power and strategy. I moved, fainted, my body remembering every drill, every correction Amelia had ever given me. My movements were fluid, precise, driven by a primal energy I hadn't known I possessed. My shoulder, once a source of pain and resentment, now moved freely, each punch connecting with controlled force. The second round, I found my rhythm. I saw an opening, a flicker of hesitation in my opponent's eyes, and I pressed my advantage. My years of pushing through exhaustion, the endless hours of training, the sheer grit honed in a tough life, it all coalesced into a relentless assault. Amelia's voice, clear and sharp amidst the din, guided me, a lifeline in the chaos. "Go for it, Maya. Finish strong." The final bell rang, a jarring clang that cut through the roaring crowd. My opponent sagged against the ropes, defeated. I stood in the center of the ring, my chest heaving, sweat pouring down my face, but a triumphant surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. The crowd was on its feet, a wave of cheers washing over me. Then the announcement. And the winner, by unanimous decision, Maya. A deafening roar erupted. My hand was raised, a shower of confetti raining down. The prize money, the victory, it was all mine. But my first instinct wasn't to look at the trophy, or to the judges. My eyes, still glistening with the effort of the fight, immediately sought Amelia. She was already clambering into the ring, her face radiant with pride, a smile so wide it threatened to split her face. Her hazel eyes, usually so intense, were now sparkling with unshed tears. She moved towards me, not as a coach, but as someone who had shared every grueling moment of this journey. Without thinking, without a care for the cameras flashing or the eyes watching, I reached out, pulled her close, and wrapped my arms around her in a tight, grateful embrace. It was a raw, unfiltered gesture, a culmination of weeks of unspoken trust, of shared struggle, of quiet understanding. She held me back just as tightly, her head resting on my shoulder, and in that moment, the world felt right. We weren't just coach and athlete anymore. We were something far more profound. We were partners, bound by shared effort and mutual respect. The flash of cameras, the sudden gasp from some corners of the crowd, the muted murmurs, it all faded into background noise. In that moment, pressed against Amelia, her presence steady and warm beside me, nothing else existed. It was an embrace that sealed not just a victory, but a profound shift in my entire world. When we finally pulled back, breathless, Amelia's eyes were shining, a beautiful mess of emotion. Her fingers, still intertwined with mine, were steady, a sign of her resolve. "You did it, Maya," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, her thumb brushing the back of my hand. "You truly did it." The immediate aftermath was a blur of congratulations, interviews, and the dazzling weight of the trophy in my hands. Amelia remained by my side, her presence a comforting anchor amidst the swirling chaos. Her hand never left my lower back, a constant, gentle reassurance. We avoided eye contact with anyone who might have witnessed our embrace, a shared, silent agreement to defer that conversation until later. Later, much later, when the arena had emptied and the last stragglers had left, we found ourselves back at the gym. It was quiet, save for the distant hum of the city. The air still carried the faint scent of sweat and victory, but now it was tinged with something new, contentment. We walked in silence to the small, private office Amelia used. She closed the door softly behind us, the click echoing in the sudden stillness. The fluorescent lights seemed softer here, the shadows longer. My heart, which had just pounded through 3 intense rounds, now beat with a different kind of calm. Amelia turned to face me, her hazel eyes, still sparkling, searched mine. "Maya," she began, her voice soft, "about what happened in the ring." I didn't let her finish. I stepped forward, closing the small distance between us, and smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression. "No regrets," I whispered, my tone steady. "None at all." She let out a soft sigh, a sound of profound relief, and her smile mirrored mine, warm and true. "Good," she murmured, a small, happy laugh escaping her lips. "Because I don't either." Her hands rested on my shoulders, a steady, supportive touch, and mine found her arms, grounding us both. The moment was quiet, filled with unspoken gratitude and understanding. It was a confirmation of the bond we'd built, a silent agreement to face whatever came next together. The world outside the office, the gym, the city, it all faded into an irrelevant hum. There was only the warmth of her presence, the strength of our connection, and the intoxicating reality of us. We spent the rest of the night in quiet conversation, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. It wasn't just about the competition. It was an emotional opening I hadn't known I was capable of. For the orphaned girl who had always guarded her heart, who saw vulnerability as a weakness, Amelia became a safe haven. Her steady support, her unwavering belief, soothed the unspoken wounds of my past. Her quiet strength gave me permission to be open, to let go of the relentless fight, if only for a few precious hours. Sitting beside her, in the quiet of her small apartment, A warm drink in hand, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in my entire life. The victory in the ring felt monumental, but the victory in my heart, the one Amelia had helped me find, was far more profound. She had not only coached me to a win, but she had, in her own quiet, persistent way, coached me towards healing. My tough exterior, the one I had cultivated out of necessity, felt a little less rigid now. Amelia had seen past it, had seen the scared girl beneath, and had stood by her regardless. The fear of losing my job, the crushing pressure of daily survival, it still lingered, a distant echo. But now, it was accompanied by a new, powerful antidote. The quiet strength of Amelia's presence, the warmth of her hand in mine, the certainty of her support. The future stretched before us, uncertain and full of unknowns. There would be questions, whispered judgments, and the challenges of navigating a relationship that had blossomed so unexpectedly. But looking at Amelia, her face serene in the soft morning light, a quiet smile on her lips, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever battles lay ahead, I wouldn't be fighting them alone. And for the first time, that thought didn't fill me with fear, but with an overwhelming, intoxicating sense of hope. The fighter had found her peace, and in Amelia, she had found her anchor.